back to another video by Dailyblades. Today I've got a CRKT on the table. It's model number 6120. It's the smaller of the two Jettisons. This is the titanium handled version. You get the typical green CRKT box. There's some paperwork in there. Nothing too fancy. The knife itself, which this one's been modified a little bit. We'll go over that here in a little bit. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's quite a small knife. But let's go ahead and knock some of the specifications out of the way real quick. Overall length is 5 1/4 inches. You're looking at a 2-inch blade length, which is 8CR13 MOV. You're looking at Warncliffe style blade with this nice swedge on top here. The handles were a stonewash finish on them, but I went ahead and, as you can see, did some anodizing. The handle lengths come in at 3.125 inches. Handle thickness is 0.36 of an inch. What else about it? Oh yeah, the weight comes in at right around 1.3 ounces. So it's a very, very lightweight knife. It is a flipper action knife, which we'll get into that. It's a little hard to flip because of its size, but it's a flipper frame lock, and it is designed by Robert Carter, which, if you're not familiar with, maybe you've seen his custom work, or maybe you've seen his extremely popular Carter Prime model released by Ontario Knife Company. So let's go ahead and get into this one a little bit. I don't know how much of an actual everyday knife purposes that this knife would serve, only because it's very, very small. Now, it actually is very functional. When I put it into my hand, I get just about, 3 fingers on it, and it's got this nice thumb ramp on the blade here. So as far as actually slicing open packages or mail or, small light duty task, I mean, it would be pretty good for that. However, there's no pocket clip. So, being as there's no pocket clip, if you're wanting to put it in your pocket, you're either going to be reaching in and fishing around for it, or you could run a small lanyard on it, which will make it a little easier to grab. But ideally for me, that's just not something I'd like to do when reaching for a pocket knife. I prefer something with a clip on my side. So for me, this would be classified as a keychain knife. And as a keychain knife, it's a pretty awesome keychain knife. Given the fact that it's titanium handles, it leaves you with a wide variety of options that you can do as far as engraving and anodizing and jeweling and dimpling and all different types of things. The blade does ride on Teflon washers. I had this knife apart a couple of times. The Teflon washers are going to wear and break down over time, but it's also going to make for flipping action a little bit smoother as time goes on. Now, if you noticed when I flipped that there, I kind of got lucky, to be honest, because if you just try and give it a straight flip, I mean, the odds are pretty much stacked against you because of its size. So you kind of have to add a little bit of wrist action into it. Once those washers wear a little bit more, it may become a little bit easier. You can also adjust that pivot to make it flip easier, but then your blade's not going to be centered. Your lockup is going to have side-to-side play, which right now it's just about perfect to where I feel like I'm not compromising too much sturdiness by loosening it a little bit to be able to flip it. Also, this knife had an incredible amount of lock stick when I first took it out of the box. So I took some Dremel bits and cleaned up and polished the lock face on the frame lock side, and then actually on the blade itself, which is going to be hard to see, but there was some burrs in there, and I mean, that lock was just grabbing it, and you literally had to put your fingers, 1 or 2 fingers in here, and pry this thing out. So I actually cleaned up that side on the blade as well, took the burrs off and polished it up a little bit. Again, just using a Dremel and various bits. And actually now it's free. Lockup is pretty good on it. I mean, it's a little bit early lockup, but it's such thin titanium, you could easily remedy that. If you prefer a later lockup, separate the halves and add a little tension on that or whatever. But I really haven't had a problem with the lockup. If I whack the spine, which I'm going to do it off camera here, on the second hit, it did come off. But again, I've got it set up for pretty early lockup, and it's a keychain knife. I mean, it really, really is. So what do you expect from it, At most, you're going to have it on your keys, you're going to open up some cellophane, maybe a package of something you bought at the store or something, your mail, things like that. So I really can't see you hard using the knife. Although, like in a survival situation, obviously any blade is better than having no blade. So maybe it'd make a great addition to a little EDC Altoid tin or something like that, because it wouldn't take up a lot of space, doesn't weigh a lot, but yet you've got a 2-inch, cutting edge, and you've got 8CR13MOV, which is going to be resistant to corrosion and things like that. So, on to what I did with the knife was on the left side here, I actually used a wire cut brush mounted in a drill press, and I textured the titanium. And the reason I did that is, to me, the knife was very, very slippery, especially for its size. You want to be able to get a good purchase on it. You want to be able to have traction. It's already small, so anything you can do to help it feel comfortable in your hand. So by doing that, it creates these micro grooves in there, which really do add a ton of traction. And then I actually went ahead and used some 400 grit sanding blocks. These are the soft foam sanding blocks, and just knocked down the edges and just kind of smoothed it just a hair. Then went ahead and flame anodized it, and you can see it's got this nice blue purplish tint. I'll post some photos of it, because honestly, when you get it in light compared to what was shown here in the video, it really does pop. Now on the other side, I went ahead and used, again, some rubberized Dremel bits and did some light dimpling, as well as some jeweling, if you will, over the top of the dimples. So you ended up with this cool design that also adds, just a ridiculous amount of traction on this side. As well as when you anodize it, now you've got light reflecting off of it from several different angles, really just showing off the colors. There's blues, there's purples, there's blurples, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so fun little knife to customize. You can get them for about 30 bucks, and you're getting titanium handles. Now, I do want to mention the 6130, the larger model, is stainless steel handles. So if you think, well, I'm going to go ahead and get that one because it's a couple dollars more and then I'll anodize it. Yes, you can, electrolysis plating and things like that to the stainless, but you're not going to be able to anodize it like you see here. If you try and flame anodize it, you probably will get some color change, but you're obviously going to run a risk of changing that heat treat to that steel. So this is the smaller 6120 model. Again, dimpled, jeweled, flame anode. Alright guys, so one last look. There's the CRKT Jettison. Let me know what you guys think about the anodizing and stuff. I do have some plans to do some dark wash on the blade. I'm not sure if I'm going to tumble it or if I'm going to acid etch it. I'm not really sure yet, but I would like to change the blade up a little bit as well. I may even get rid of the flipper tab and do a little nail nick and just kind of have it as like somewhat like a slip joint type knife, that you can just kind of, open it up like that. Because honestly, it's really not the greatest working knife as a flipper, but that's because it's lightweight and there's not a whole lot of weight in that blade, and it doesn't have a strong detent. But it is cool that they made it a flipper, made it a frame lock with titanium for 30 bucks just to show that they could do it. So, alright guys, thanks, take care.